Good evening. My name's T-Ray, and I'm here with this beautiful group of young adults from White River Junction, and we're here tonight to hear their perspectives on relationship boundaries and consent. So, you guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the first question I have for you guys is, we're going to start with boundaries. So how do you know if someone has set good or bad boundaries? How do you evaluate that?
Actions.
Actions. Yes.
I think one of the best ways to do that is asking the person what boundaries they have.
I think sometimes having those conversations isn't always easy, and it can be uncomfortable. Can anyone speak to that? Yeah.
Oh, I can't speak to that, but I have another story.
Sure.
I am friends with multiple people, good enough friends with them where we can all call each other names and nobody will care.
I'm going to change the topic a little bit and dive a little deeper. So by a show of hands, has anyone ever been asked by somebody to hook up? And I'm kind of wondering how did you feel when asked, and how did you respond? Yeah.
Tinder.
I was thinking that too. Also Tinder.
It was actually like quite uncomfortable because it was by a bunch of men and I'm gay. So, but it was by a bunch of guys, and just like the way they would talk to me and stuff would just make me uncomfortable, and I would just be like, just no. And they'll be like, oh, just let me get your Snapchat, and I'm like, no. Like, no is my final answer. Leave it. So
you were able to give a pretty clear no.
Yeah.
It sounds like they were pretty persistent, but maybe that's Tinder, you know?
Yeah.
Maybe that's
That's definitely Tinder. That's definitely
Yeah.
Tinder.
Yeah, I had somebody find me on Instagram one time because he didn't match with me on Tinder, and I was like, why do you think that that's okay? Like,
Yes.
that's not.
Yeah,
It was
It
really
is
scary.
how easy it is with social media. You just jump to another platform and
Yeah.
find them
Yeah,
there.
like if you make a Tinder, like they could easily find you on Snapchat, like Instagram or anything. Like I've had it
That's
happen
why-
so many times.
That's why
Yeah.
you don't put that information in Tinder.
A lot of people hook up their Instagram though because it's more pictures so that people
Yeah.
can see what you're up
Yeah.
to.
What do you?
Sometimes it's only
But
like the first like 6.
that's also
though.
why you make a burn account.
Yeah, there's that too. You could do that.
So how do you deal with those situations? Like, do you have to go and block someone on different platforms? Or
I
you
mean,
just-
usually like
pretty
I
much
just
what-
say like, do you see my bio? Like
Yeah.
I like girls. I
Yeah.
like trans men. Like I just don't like guys. Like it's not my thing.
Yeah.
I don't. And they're like, okay, sorry, and then they just go away, I guess.
They just go away.
I've been in that situation a couple times.
where you just
I
have
mean,
to say no.
I was from the men's side.
Yeah, can you tell me about that?
Well, I obviously asked a girl out, and she obviously liked girls, not guys. And it went exactly how he described it.
Did you, when that was made clear to you, was it sort of easy to just say, oh, that's my mistake, and
Yeah.
you stepped away? Has anyone been in a situation where it wasn't so easy to say no, where someone, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
No.
That's all right, that's all right. Yeah.
I was in a situation where I was volunteering at a sweet corn festival in a state I used to live in. And there was this guy, and I was just going around asking if like I could volunteer, just like, because it was a thing. And he's like, yeah, you can help me, and I helped him, and he's like, he just started talking to me about like personal things. Like I was only 16, and I just started like kind of like getting like this really bad vibe, and just like feeling the need I had to leave, and I couldn't. And he ended up raping me, and that was one of the situations I could not say no to.
That's really scary.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I don't even know how to respond to that. thanks for being
It's
willing to
okay.
share that. Yeah.
I mean, one day, like, my story, like, could help someone else. So that's the reason why I'm more verbal about mine. So.
Yeah, I feel the same way about mine too.
And I think you guys are both, very vocal. And is there any message, I guess, you could give maybe to people who feel like they're on the other side, where maybe they're receiving resistance and they're not really taking no for an answer? Like, what could you say to those people?
My message to the people who've been through what I've went through is one day your story will be heard, and it can change millions of lives. Or if maybe not millions, thousands. We'll start at thousands. And it can change so many people's lives, knowing that they're not alone, knowing that they are heard and they are going to be able to still be a woman or a man, and just waking up one day knowing that, like, they will have that courage again, not being in the shadows because something traumatic happened to them. Like, their story will be heard, and that's what I have to say.
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing that. And sort of on the other side of the coin, we've talked a little bit about sort of being on the receiving end and being asked to hook up or asked for sex. But has anyone, and you kind of talked about it, but has anyone else had an instance where they were the ones maybe asking for something, and, well, yeah, has anyone had that experience?
I did that once. I was
Yeah.
on Tinder, as people are. And
As we do, yeah.
and it happened, and I was talking to this one person, and I was like, yeah, so what about tomorrow? And they were like, well, tomorrow doesn't really work. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I would just, we were friends, and we were talking about it, and we just, like, kept talking about it, and they kept putting it off, and I went, okay, this person's not into me. I got it. So then I just moved on.
So it was kind of from not getting the response that you're looking for, you were like, it's clear.
Yeah, but I wasn't like trying to like pressure them into anything either. I was kind of like, well, the offer's still there if you want to take it, but you don't have to. Because I've been on the other end of it too, and it's just not fun to be pressured into things like that. So.
Well, I think that's really insightful, that because you have the experience from probably more often being on the other side and knowing how weird or uncomfortable, how tough it is to say no, how when someone doesn't know when to stop, how potentially dangerous that could be.
Yeah.
So you had that perspective.
Yeah.
And you were able to, yeah.
Kind of similar to what Jay was feeling. I was on Tinder, and I saw in someone's bio their Snapchat, and I went on Snapchat and messaged them like 3 small messages, and I didn't get a response at all. I waited 3 days and just was like, I just gave up on them.
And because they weren't responding, you knew that like this wasn't happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's tough. I think it's tough from both sides, like wanting to express interest and getting that resistance. And also it's tough from maybe the person who's getting the message thinking, oh, why are they still messaging me? And so we've also talked a lot of these stories come from Tinder, which is interesting, now that like,
Isn't it?
yeah, now
A lot of people use Tinder.
well, yeah, instead of, as many face-to-face interactions, maybe a lot of our flirting, back in the, it's all, yeah, social media.
It's mostly social media.
Which is completely different, and maybe that changes the game. Maybe there's different rules to it.
Yeah. And that's why it blows people's minds when I tell them that I met my boyfriend at work. They're like, what? And I'm like, yep, that's how that happened.
You guys work like an online business or something?
No,
like,
we don't even work together. He was a customer.
Back when my grandparents were kids, flirting was probably way different. And a way you'd flirt would probably be like get a flower for a girl, and that's probably like one of the
pretty
biggest
much.
flirting methods. There probably
and then
weren't many.
In addition, so sort of on like Facebook and other social media platforms, how do you decide when to block someone?
Homophobic.
Exhibit A.
There's racist. There's just people that like bash me just because like I'm transgender. There's people like there's my own family, exes, the exes' family, exes' friends. Just like most of my like block list just generated from all my exes and just grew.
That is a mood. I don't have any of my exes blocked, but I'm on bad terms with all of them anyway.
You're right.
But I know that they don't stalk me, so I'm fine.
I just couldn't.
I knew that my exes didn't care enough to stalk me, so.
I know a couple that would.
I know a couple of former friends who probably would.
And when you say like that, you know a couple that would, are you saying like
Stalk
they
me?
just, yeah, what do you mean by that?
They would definitely stalk me. I have, one of my exes has been blocked 5 times.
Oh,
Because
no.
she would sit there and just keep making other Facebooks among other Facebooks among other ones, and then it just would not stop. And at the time, like I was just in a really, really bad place, and like I just kind of like discovered drugs, and then that's what made me like just want to just
Can
throw her away.
Can I suggest something for you in that situation?
Yeah.
You just don't keep accepting the friend
Oh no, I
request.
just block her. That's why she's been blocked like 5 times.
That's a little more empowering, hitting that block button, you know?
Absolutely,
That's kinda
it
nice,
is.
you know?
Absolutely.
It's just the like control you feel.
First,
like,
you decline the friend request and then you block them.
I mean, either way, if you block them.
Yeah.
So we're talking a lot about blocking people. So online, when you're in that virtual space, like how do you say no to people? How do you draw lines, boundaries? But what about in real life? So either someone comes up to you in person and is being flirty with you and you aren't appreciative, or in a more intimate setting, how do you say no, or how do you draw a line in that setting? Because now there's no like screen to hide behind, and I think it's one thing to say no.
I would just say no flat out. There's different ways of saying no for different types of situations. No offense to anyone who's any of LGBTQ, but if a guy came up to me and was like that, I would been like, no, I'm sorry, I'm not gay.
And my excuse is I am gay.
Yeah.
Because I'm female passing, so I'm just like, I'm gay, sorry.
If a female came up to me,
Yeah, so what if it was,
that's a different story. Most of the time I would probably take up that option.
That's a mood. I also love women.
Me too.
I feel that.
so what if you're just, it's the type of person you're normally into,
Yeah.
but it's just not, right now you're not, for whatever reason, you're just not into them. Maybe you like know something about them or something about the personality, just you're not into it. Like how do you, but they're coming on strong.
Well, if
but
I
you
know
really
the
don't
person already and I know that they're a terrible person, and I would just be like, nah, I'm good. Or I would sugarcoat it with a small lie and be like, you know, I'm kind of seeing someone right now.
See, that's the difference. I would not sugarcoat it because, like, it's my body. Like, my rule is, like, you either respect it or you just keep walking. Like, and if you don't respect it, kick rocks while you're going to, because, like, this is my body, and if you disrespect it, then leave. I never want to see you again. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't sugarcoat anything.
Yeah, you've let them know.
Yeah.
Now, in another situation, if I knew that person, but I also knew that they were like a drug addict, I would also say no to that because I wouldn't want to be pulled down into that any further than I already am.
This got really sad.
That's tough, yeah. That's tough. I mean, I think part of that brings up,
It does bring up a good point.
Yeah.
I'm not that far in. I'm only at the gateway drug. That's it. and I'm gonna stick with that.
Well, in addition, I guess for me at least, that brings up a thought, which is when you say no to someone, like you might, like how
Not
you gonna make them,
notice,
how you gonna make them feel like, maybe you don't want like.
Well,
on one hand, like.
I wouldn't say that it's because they're a drug addict. I would just say, no, I'm good. Like.
But then what if they ask you why? I think is kind of where it's going.
Like, no, it's not even, okay, no, that was just a little bit mean. That was just a little bit mean. Okay, okay.
I know a couple people who do that kind of stuff who, if they asked me, I would probably, if they asked why, I would, because I know them and the people, they would be fine with me saying, because you need help. I know that.
Right. Okay. Okay. This is my story. Okay. I was in a relationship where I was with a drug addict, and she used to do crystal meth. And
Oh gosh.
I got addicted, and I like started seeing like my own physical like body change, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I can't do this no more. And I rehabilitated myself. I almost said revived.
Close enough.
Yeah, basically.
It's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
And I told her, I was like, you can either like recover and like rehabilitate yourself like I did, or like you can leave. Like, I don't want to be with you if you're going to do that. And she did it in front of me, and I left her. Like, it's not even the fact that like I was still with you and I gave you the option to recover, and you chose drugs. So I'm gonna choose a better life over you. Like, plain and simple.
And you do that for yourself. Like,
Yes.
You gotta do what's best for you.
Yeah, and that's like, it's the fact that like you may love that person and seeing them struggle is a lot for you, but like you have the choice of whether you could stay there and see them recover, or you can better yourself and do it on your own. And it's hard either way, but it's better than being drugged down.
I think one of the messages here that is really ringing clear is, like your body, your boundaries, you choose where to set them. Like ultimately sometimes it's tough to speak up, but you got to speak up for yourself.
Right.
So on a similar note, but not entirely, since we're starting to talk about substances, but I wanted to ask a question about substances that is a little different, and that's how does consent work when you're under the influence? So I guess I have a question for you guys first. So is it possible to get consent when
No, it is not.
people are under the influence, intoxicated?
No.
If you're drunk, there's no consent.
The Mac
Yes.
speaks.
Stop. Indeed.
If you're drunk and someone asks you that for consent to have sex, that's an obvious no. But because you're drunk, you're not gonna say that.
I think you bring up a great point. Like, that legally, whatever, speaking, you can't get consent. Like, it's clear so let's imagine you and a partner.
Legally, you cannot get consent from somebody who is under the influence of drugs or alcohol.
Even if you already had consent prior and they say no, that
Yeah, even if you had consent prior to them being drunk or high or stoned, the answer is still no because they are under the influence.
Exactly.
Okay, you said drunk and high. I think, there's a fine line
I said
between...
I think.
I don't know. I just think there's like a difference though, because like being drunk and like getting like,
you can't really comprehend much when you're drunk.
Like you can comprehend so much more and like achieve much more when you're high, but can you do that when you're drunk? No.
Well, there's different types of high. There's the psychedelics and then the ones that just make you tired, and then the ones that make you hyper.
I would never. Okay, yeah, now I see a difference. Okay. But I just think that even if you do have the consent and you think that's consent, it's not consent. Like, because like that's not their verbal consent. Are they going to be able to say that in the morning? Probably not. Like, they're not even going to know. Like.
Yeah, they might not even remember.
Yeah.
They might. Yeah. And I mean, then you also brought up a good point. But if you're also intoxicated, or even if you're not, like, maybe it's hard to say no. Like, that your partner is not sober, but maybe you're also not sober, and so what do you do then? Like, how do you navigate that? Like, maybe you want something intimate.
That situation's gonna end badly either way.
So I wanted to ask a little bit also about sex ed and how people learn about sex.
Well, at Hartford, we didn't.
I think sex ed is very like it's not as known as it should be. Like, and it's like something that like kids are just learning from each other, and it's not safe like at all. That's how I learned, at least. I learned when I was in 1st grade from my porn at recess, talking about, oh, I'm gonna go have sex. Like we are in 1st grade.
Do you even know what you're talking about?
Right, like I went home that day, I was like, Mom, what is sex? She's like,
oh no.
What?
Not prepared for this question at such a young
Yeah,
age.
so I asked
Yeah, like I wasn't gonna answer that until like 5th or 6th grade.
From when you were in 1st grade?
Yeah, because like all these little boys were just like being little horn dogs just going around. No, like we learned when we were in like 5th or like 6th grade, and that's like.
That was a little too late.
My school never had it. Like middle school or high school. I went to school in New York.
And it was about drugs. It wasn't even about like sex.
Like, so
was, like,
how did they frame
We
it?
also
Was
didn't
it
have
like
anything about drugs either.
what was the name of the class?
Sex ed.
It was sex ed, but
But it was not
Don't
like
do
it
drugs.
literally like they didn't even like, cause some schools like I know like they'd make them do like the banana peel and the condom like we didn't, none of the boys did that, like, but when prom came around, they had a box full of condoms in like the freaking boys' bathroom, like.
That's because they're encouraging
better to be safe.
sex.
Like, you're just like asking for your students to get pregnant.
The high school had
Yeah, the principal put in a whole box of condoms and told the kids to be safe.
Well, if you're gonna, you might as well just be safe about it.
I was like, you
guess.
can literally supply condoms, but you cannot sit there and educate your students about sex.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
So it sounds like, I mean, the message is clear. Like, we want you to be safe. Don't do anything bad. Don't get in trouble.
My sex ed was actually proper.
Mine wasn't.
I was in a residential group home, so they have it kind of more restricted. It's more government
Funded?
yeah.
Run? Government run?
Government run and funded.
Mandated.
Mandated, and the stuff we were taught was agreed upon by the government and DCF and the parents.
That makes sense. Where I went to school, we had this big talk in 5th grade where we all gathered into a room and they were like, here's what's gonna happen to you. And they told us about puberty. And then in middle school, it wasn't until, I think, 8th grade that we had like a class on like sex and how to be safe about it and stuff like that. And then in high school, we had one class for one part of the year, and I think we spent 2 days talking about sex, and that was it. The rest was just drugs. That's all it was, and it was a health class.
The difference between me and you, I didn't have a class that taught me about puberty.
I went to public school.
I went to residential group homes and residential schools that had day students, so, yeah.
So regardless of the form or like exactly how the sex ed occurred, it sounds like a common theme though is that it didn't really explain how things actually go
Mine
down.
did.
Like it wasn't.
I think
the
most
exception of-
kids.
yeah.
Okay, I think most kids are learning from porn.
Yeah, most kids learn about
Like-
sex from porn. Most
Yeah.
kids do.
That's how I learned, at least. Like I had no like sex ed, so I was like.
I learned most of what I know about sex from undesirable websites.
And I think
You can use the word porn.
No, I love. Like so many people watch porn, and yet it's not talked about, and people are as we're all saying, like people are going to porn to learn about sex for better or for worse. So I guess do you guys think learning from porn, is that enough? Is that a good idea?
No,
Is that bad?
because not at
It's
all.
not real. It's not real.
It is fictional,
Yeah.
but it teaches you
It teaches
Like-
you nothing.
It teaches you nothing.
Positions, and
Like
that's it.
literally,
That's
okay.
all.
Like you could. Oh my god.
teaches you
I
positions, and
can't.
that's
You're not
all.
watching very good porn.
Like I just. Okay.
That's all you're learning from it? It's not very good porn.
If anything, we're learning that there are people out here. There's moms out here fucking their stepchildren. That is what we.
Hold on, wait. You need to go back. No. You need to go back because none of us were listening.
There are moms out here having sex with their stepchildren.
I mean, I think we're
It is
acknowledging,
titles,
we're
it's
acknowledging,
subtitles.
we're acknowledging the real things that.
It's for fictional entertainment.
So I think it's when we step back and like cognitively think about it, like yes, it's fictional and for entertainment, but at the same time, as we're all saying, like people are when they're young going to actually learn, and maybe somebody who's older, who has more experiences, knows that it's fictional. But for someone, for a youth seeing that for the first few times and actively going to learn, like it's tough. Like how are you gonna know it's fictional? Like you earnestly, like you just want to know, like
You're like traumatized.
you're just like
This is the only option.
like I just need to know. Like I want to have sex. I want to know what to do.
I think-
And then how do you until like someone tells you no? Like that is
I think
not.
I think a mixture of a proper sex ed class that teaches about sex safety and porn would be actually beneficial.
Yeah, I think
So
too.
you're saying,
Your voice just cracked.
hold up. So you're saying that there should be a class that provides like.
No, the class itself doesn't provide the porn.
Okay.
The class provides the sex ed.
Because I was like, you want a class
for
that
the
provides
safety.
pornography.
No.
Okay.
No.
So I agree with that because the like whole like kids learning off pornography is like, it's just like it's unbelievable. Like it's like, of course, someone younger probably thinks it's real, but like if you look at it now, they're like, oh my god, like. What?
So
Like
staged.
what?
Yeah.
But like it's just like it has to be like a better way for like kids to like have knowledge on what to do and like to be safe about it. And now that like I can't even begin to imagine like about the like how kids that are like younger, like 14, 15 getting pregnant,
People are getting, there's so many unwanted pregnancies. Like half of pregnancies are
which is causing a
unplanned.
raise in abortions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we like why aren't we doing better? Like you're saying, like like everyone learns addition and subtraction and multiplication and whatever, but like
No one's getting proper sex ed.
yeah.
No one's being taught how to make more humans properly.
But we can multiply.
Trying to be PC about it.
Or to learn. No one's learning the right time in your life to do that.
Yes, there's that too. Yeah. We don't really learn when is a good time to be like, yeah, let's do this, rather than, no, that's not right.
The only thing I can say about that is a good time for that would be when you have a job that pays more than minimum wage, have your own house, have a stable incoming wage where you have a bunch of money after you pay your bills. A bunch of money, meaning like a couple $100 from one paycheck. And yeah. And you possibly have, well, obviously you'll have a spouse, but, and after you're married.
So I wanted to dive into the pornography thing a little bit more and tie it together with, yeah, please. That's what we're all here to do.
I
We
have
want to
something to say about that.
talk about pornography.
I feel like there should be a sex ed website, but it's also a porn website at the same time.
It is a thing.
It is a thing?
Hans said it's a thing.
Okay, I guess it's a thing.
All right.
I'm not surprised that that's a thing, though.
I'm not
there's-
either.
surprise
Of
me at
all,
all.
I mean, there's so many kinds of porn. So someone's
But it's a porn website that
Someone's kink is probably
isn't,
knowledge.
that's meant,
Kink is probably
meant to be,
Probably.
meant to depict what real life in that situation is like.
what I wanted to say though. So with pornography, then, and tying it back to like consent and boundaries. So, and maybe my question is like a leading question. I'm giving away what I'm getting at, but so if people are looking at porn, what are they learning about consent, for example?
Nothing.
Pretty much nothing, sometimes. There's some point where it just jumps right into the sex part and there's no storyline. There's no consent there.
I have nothing to say for this, like, at all.
Oh,
Like,
I got
'cause,
you.
like,
I'll say plenty. I
Funny.
can talk about porn for
can't,
hours.
like, see, there's the, okay.
Going back to those mother stepson thing you were talking about.
No, we don't need to go back there.
Most of those videos have a consent in them. Most of those
I don't know.
So.
not all of them, but most of them have
See, there's
the son giving consent.
See, there's like, there's the teens that get like caught like masturbating or whatever, and then then they just like whoever just hops on and just like there's no consent at all. Like, oh yeah, I want it. Like, there's just like nothing being said, and it's like
Some of them have consent.
yeah, some of them do. Like, some of them like by like what is it, foreplay? Is it foreplay? Am I?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like they go on by foreplay, and some of them don't say anything, like, and like how do you know they're actually verbally consenting to you, like, and then there's like the people, yeah, you can go on about yourself.
I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Well, no, I think that's like the verbal consent part. Like that's not, and like that's the key part. Like, how do you get verbal consent? You know?
I mean, okay, if it was me and like it was like a serious situation, not like porn or whatever, like it was just a serious thing, and like it was me and this girl was like flirting with me, I was flirting with her, and then she starts doing foreplay, like then like yeah, I'm gonna think like she wants it, unless like she says no, and I'm like okay, like it stops, like it's not that hard to stop, like something someone doesn't want to do, and that's just me though.
No, I think that. So you're kind of reading like the body language and like
Body
the
language.
atmosphere.
like it's just like all about like everything like that they're throwing at you and how like you're going to take it. So yeah, whether you want to like light that fire and go, then you go.
No, it's a real dance, like in it,
Or add
and you
some
gotta
add some kindling to the fire to
yeah, if you
add
want
some wood
to
to
kindle
the
that,
fire.
if you want to keep that fire going, yeah, exactly. But it takes like reciprocation. It takes having clearly stated boundaries, and sometimes, well, I guess then the next question is, again, an obvious question, but so is it if you just like at the beginning of a sexual encounter you get consent, like does that mean you have to?
I don't know, but
does that mean you're
that
good?
can get revoked
Does
at
that
any
mean you're
time.
good?
That can yeah, because like that can change to no, like in a heartbeat, and you can still like whether that person says no, like you have to stop. Like I mean, you do have the choice whether you should, but like you should be the smarter person and stop. But that card can always get revoked.
Yeah, that's a good thing to know, especially if you're like experimenting with things, as I know that a lot of people my age are. It's really important to like go into it and be like, are you sure this is okay? And then they say yes, and then you keep going, and maybe they look a little uncomfortable or they look a little uneasy, and then you ask them again and make sure that that's okay, what you're doing to them, and then you can proceed from there. And I think it's a really good thing to know when to ask for more, or when to ask if this is okay, or when to ask if they should stop.
But it's like a dance, like it's ongoing.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
It's no like you go from point A to point B. Good, check. I got consent. It's
Yeah.
like constantly going back and forth between you and your partner, or whoever, multiple partners, like whatever the situation is. Like, you just have to be clear, and you have to maintain that. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we've really covered a lot, from Tinder to pornography to different types of pornography.
Thank you,
really,
Joe.
Of high
yeah, to different
drug and alcohol use.
different substances. But I think there's a pretty clear message we're hitting, which is maybe we're not doing enough with sex ed, and things that pornography doesn't show often are the real dynamics and mechanics of what consent looks like. And that's kind of where things can go wrong. Yeah. So before we wrap up, I was wondering if anyone has any last things they wanted to share, any messages out to the world.
I like how y'all look at me.
Yeah, and
like I have something to say now.
I can't really look.
Are we supposed to
Yeah,
see?
yeah. I can't, it's kind of hard
Doesn't say a
to
word.
turn all the way over to
she's
T.
done good.
Maybe if everyone wants to check out T is wearing a dope bear sweater.
It is really cute.
Yeah, it's really
It's
adorable,
really
guys.
soft too.
Sorry,
Sorry,
All right.
T.